Welcome back to YouTube's most exclusive book club. Here I am creating another Bridgerton video, and today I'll be covering the ugly duckling of the Bridgerton universe. As a general rule, people consider season 3 to be the worst of the seasons, with an uninspired love interest and a story riddled with side plots. I'll be honest and say that season 3 is my least favourite, and that includes what I've seen from season 4. However, I have to admit, upon rewatch, it wasn't as bad as I remember. But the truth is, we are here to answer a simple question. Is the third book better than the show, or is it just as messy? Let's start by recounting the plot of the book, and I'll provide my thoughts after so we're all on the same page. So let's begin. The book follows a similar plot to the show, just more streamlined as it doesn't include any of the side plots. The story starts with a flashback of how Pen met Colin. This happened a year before the first book, which is Daphne's debut. Pen, who failed to properly tie her bonnet, scandalous I know, sees it fly off her head and directly into Colin's face. This results in him falling off his horse and directly into some mud.
It was not my fault the wind blew clean off my head.
Oh, wind or not, you certainly seemed pleased when I landed in the mud.
Pen, who is used to being bullied, is obviously devastated. She's expecting reprimand or maybe some insults, but actually gets a very different reaction. Colin basically just laughs and says that he isn't very graceful. Faced with the hottest man in the ton being kind to her, it is love at first sight. A very one-sided love at first sight. Unlike in the show, they don't really have a close bond. They're more like acquaintances at best. Colin outright says that he wouldn't even consider her a friend. But over the course of the years, they get to know each other a little better as she spends time with the Bridgerton since she is Eloise's best friend. There is then a 7-year time skip which basically takes us to the third book, where Pen overhears Colin talking to his brothers. They're teasing him about his lack of marriage and saying that he could always marry Pen. Colin says with his full chest that he will not marry Pen. And I am certainly not going to marry Penelope Featherington. Now that statement did not age well. When she overhears it, she basically goes, "Bitch, did I say I wanted to marry you though?" Still, despite keeping her composure, she's obviously devastated as the man of her dreams is like, ain't no fucking way behind her back. And that brings us to the present day. It's important to note that we as readers do not know that Pen is Whistledown yet. Obviously, the show reveals it to us in season 1, but the book we only find it out about halfway through this book. So keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that everyone is significantly older than in the show, with Colin being 33 years old and Pen officially being on the shelf for so long that she's built a cabinet. She is 28 years old. Colin has been traveling on and off for the last couple of years, and he's come back from his travels. He's basically decided to stay the season, which hasn't happened in a really long time. The two reunite at Violet's birthday party. Colin is surprised that she is prettier than he remembered, which is something that happens repeatedly during this book. But the important part is that Lady Danbury approaches them at the party, and this is important for 2 reasons. 1, Lady Danbury is very complimentary of Pen, which sort of gives her this newfound confidence, because she's like, if this old lady likes me, then I must be a baller. And 2, the conversation inspires Lady Danbury to announce that she will give £1,000 to whoever can unmask Lady Whistledown. The whole ton is sort of interested in the reward. Like, you got to remember that without inflation, £1,000 is a huge amount of money, like life-changing money. But honestly, for a lot of them, since they're so rich, it's more about like the glory. A few days pass. Pen shows up to the house to see Eloise, who isn't there. Since she's such a family friend, the butler's like, why don't you go wait upstairs? Why not? Well, basically, the reason why not is that Colin left his journal open and Pen decides to read it. This bit sort of surprised me, but Colin's diary entry is actually about travel rather than the intimate moment like in the show.
In those moments alone, as my fingers trace freckles from cheek to collarbone.
I think they changed it in the show to more justify Colin's anger, because when Colin finds her, he is mad. And this rage is totally out of character for Colin, because he is famous for being charming and nonchalant. But in his anger, he cuts his hand, which Pen helps him attend to. Colin then decides to open up about his feelings, that he doesn't really like his reputation of being a charmer. It makes people think he's a himbo. Like, think of him as a millionaire's son, which he is. Like, he has everything in the world, but none of it is really his, and that makes him sad. It doesn't help that Anthony is now the head of the household and Benedict has since become a famous painter, which, good for him. Colin is basically feeling like everyone is stepping into their own but him. But yeah, that's basically his struggle this book. The fact that he wants something for himself. But all of this pisses Penn off because she's unpopular, feels like he doesn't appreciate what he has, and has always been envious of people liking him. She storms out of that room, which makes Colin feel weird, which in turn makes him feel even weirder because what the fuck, why does it matter what she thinks? She mattered, he didn't know how else to put it. Penn and her sisters go to a performance and engage in another conversation with Danbury, who says she thinks Whistledown is actually a big softie and really smart. So actually, she thinks it may be Penn? Maybe? Colin interrupts the conversation in order to apologize for being a whiny brat. Penn apologizes for not letting him be in his feelings and suggests that if he wants a legacy, and he has writing talents, he should publish his books. Colin, on the other hand, not super keen on the idea, as he thinks his books would only be successful because of his name as a Bridgerton, which in turn means he didn't really do it for himself. The next day, Colin visits Penn to tell her that he is convinced that Eloise is Whistledown, and that it will ruin his family. Penn is like, I bet you she ain't. Penelope would bet her life on it. But Colin points out that in this society, even a rumour of it would ruin her, such as if a rumour came out that they kissed. Penn then asks if he would give her a little smooch, as she's never been kissed before, and he's thinking to himself, nah. But mostly because the idea of it makes him horny, so he does it anyway. Now the dynamic here is that she thinks he is kissing her out of pity, especially since he leaves so quickly after. But actually he's bothered by the fact that he liked it so much. Colin could think of 100 reasons why kissing Penelope Featherington was a bad idea, the number one being that he actually wanted to kiss her. During this time, Whistledown has announced her retirement and says it's cause Danbury's reward has created chaos in the ton and she doesn't really fuck with that. A few days later, there is another party where Cressida announced that she is Whistledown. Cressida goes to Danbury and is like, yo, give me my £1,000, and Danbury is like, are you dumb? Ain't nowhere you're the writer. The important part here is that Danbury asks Penn what she thinks, and Penn is like, and it would break my heart if she turned out to be someone like Lady Thumbley. The next day, Colin catches Penn sneaking out of her house and he decides to follow her, and she takes him to the poor part of town, the South London of Bridgerton if you will, the stabby part. He sees her hiding a letter and confronts her on the letter. You get where I'm going with this. The letter reveals that she is Whistledown. Now, Penn tries to run away, but her driver has left, so she has to wait for Colin. As I pointed out, she can't just walk off, she's a rich girl in the stabby part of town. Colin eventually comes out and they take a carriage ride home. Colin gives Penn an absolute bollocking. You know, like, you put yourself in danger, you should have just let Cressida take the blame. Weirdly though, he isn't actually annoyed that she is Whistledown. This understandably makes her like him less, cause like, why are you being a dick? Why had she been so foolish as to think he was the perfect man? She is like, look, Cressida bullied me for years, and now she's trying to steal my glory. Ain't no way. The fight makes Colin horny for some reason and he starts to kiss her. The man is hitting second base when they arrive at her house. Colin then proposes, in all honesty, a dead-ass way. Like in the show, it was sort of tongue-in-cheek.
For God's sake, Penelope Featherington, are you going to marry me or not?
But in the book, it felt more like he thought it was a foregone conclusion. Anyway, they go into the house together. Colin then tells them that they're getting married, but like the mum doesn't believe it, which makes Colin mad at the disrespect. They're now engaged, and Colin begins to ask himself the question he really should have asked before proposing. Does he love Penn? A few more days pass, during which Colin visits Daphne, and now it's their engagement party, which becomes unfortunate timing as Whistledown has made a new final column calling Cressida a liar. Now this made Colin mad again. He's always mad apparently, because he ripped up the letter, but then Penn rewrote it. Penn admits that she was waiting for Colin to publicly announce their engagement so he can't back out of it. But again, it wasn't meant to happen at the party. The publisher made the decision as he knew it would generate more scandal and thus more interest. Penn then promises to never publish again, but it's starting to feel like Colin is ashamed of her. Colin, on the other hand, is coming to the realization that what is making him most angry is the fact that he is jealous of her success, but he doesn't tell her that. He also realizes that he does actually love her. Penn then says she's loved him for years, and Colin, internally, admits that he always knew about her feelings. He was just kind of ignoring it, hoping she would get over it. He had known, he supposed, but he had thrust it from his mind because her love made him uncomfortable. It was hard to be loved by someone decent and good when you don't return the emotion, and that eventually she would find someone else and settle down into a happy and contented life. But obviously now he loves her too, and he tells her, and they do the devil's tango, the horizontal salsa. They do it. The tension in their relationship now is the fact that Penn wants to talk to Colin about Whistledown, but he is avoiding the topic. So she decides to talk about the honeymoon instead, and he says they ain't going on one. Now obviously this hurts her because she was really excited about the idea of traveling and he loves traveling, but he says if she becomes exposed, he has to be here to help mitigate the damage. A few more days pass, and Colin finally lets her read his writing. He also admits that the reason he's been such a dick is because he's jealous of her. But he says he's also proud of her and wants to know how she became Whistledown, like how did you do it? So here we get the origin story, which honestly was super interesting and I really wish the show had explained it. She said that she used to write it in secret for herself, kind of like a journal, until the family solicitor accidentally came across it. This whole scene mimics how Penn read Colin's journals. She left it open, he walked in, read it, thought it was hilarious. He saw the potential and basically became her business manager. He set everything up and got them published. The solicitor died, but the process continued. The next chapter involves the confrontation with Cressida, who says she's known Penn as Whistledown since the party, as they use the same turn of phrase. And it would break my heart to see my years of hard work attributed to someone such as her. Now she wants £10,000 in a week or she'll expose her. Penn talks to Colin about it and they agree they can't pay Cressida because she's a little leech who will never stop abusing her for money. Penn then suggests that Lady Danbury can help because if they tell the old lady everything, she could confess and everyone would believe her because she's that kind of person. Colin is like, nah, I have a better plan, but doesn't tell her what the plan is. The next day is the party. Penn has no idea what the plan is, but the Bridgertons have all received letters from Colin to protect Penn and keep her away from Danbury. When Penn and Colin reunite, he takes her to the back room and says that Anthony has agreed to provide them protection. He's explained everything to his brother's on board.
I don't have friends. I got family.
The plan is to just confess and face the consequences. Fuck it, let's ride it out, see what happens. It's then revealed that the room they're in is actually connected to a balcony where Colin gives a really mushy speech about how much he loves his wife and that she is actually Lady Whistledown, which is met with thunderous applause. In the epilogue, Colin has published his first book, which Penn helped edit, and Penn is very, very pregnant while writing her own novel about being a wallflower. The end. So I'll be honest, I was procrastinating reading this book a little because people in my comment sections were so hating on Colin, and he was my favourite characters in the last few books, and I didn't want him ruined. But here's the thing, I kinda understand the hate. His character is very different from the show. In the show, he's sort of the Stefan of the Bridgerton community. He's just a good guy, a hopeless romantic. The thing is, no hate to the actor, he's just so boring. Like yawn. In the book, his characterization is that he's charming. A more charming man I don't think London has ever seen. In the previous books, I thought showed this like devilish charm. But the problem is, the theme of his character is that he uses his charm to keep people at bay. But I don't think it was very well shown in this book. It's sort of like the Duke's stutter. In the first book, the Duke can only stutter around Daphne as he's comfortable with her. We see it as a way of showing vulnerability. Colin uses his charm as a mask, so him being able to be angry is meant to be his way of showing his truer self. He'd have to really, truly, no, profoundly be upset to lose his temper, and that kind of fury can only be sparked by someone you really, truly, profoundly cared about. But the problem is, he spends most of the book angry and isn't charming to anyone. You can't tell me he is famous for his charm, and most of the book he comes across as needing anger management. The main conflict of season 3 was that Penn was Whistledown and it alienated her from Eloise, created distance from Colin as she couldn't open up, and then when he does find out, he's really mad about it. The thing is that Colin already knew she was Whistledown before he got with her in the books, which makes the main conflict that he is jealous of her, which he won't tell her, so she just feels like he's ashamed of her. Especially since Penn already wants to stop being Whistledown, and it had nothing to do with him. And he doesn't hate Whistledown, so that whole thing's gone. He just hates that he has nothing and she has something. And honestly, it makes him come across as kind of petty. I can sort of see why people have a problem with this dynamic, as it comes across as like he thought he was better than her, and then he finds out that she did something that he couldn't, so he resents her for it. To be clear, I don't think that was fully the writer's intention. I think they were going for more of a they complete each other vibe, as he's good with people and she's good with writing, so together they make like a perfect team. I think this can be seen with the fact that Penn helped edit Colin's writing, and Colin is the one that gives the speech that Penn is whistled down because he's the charming one, he's the public speaker. The theme being that she no longer has to worry about him being ashamed of her as they step into the light together. The theme of the show was more about her stepping into her own as an individual. And honestly, I kind of don't like either, and I feel like there must have been like a middle ground here. I feel like it would have been better for him to start the speech to show that he accepts her, and then for her to actually do the declaration so that she's the one that steps into the light, and that way it feels like they're doing this together. Although the focus was more on her feelings of being accepted, he did put her in a position where he made the decision. I mean, like, he literally told her the plan seconds before they stepped onto the balcony, and he did it on purpose. He purposely kept it from her. This wasn't her decision, it was one he made for them. I will say I did like the fact that in the book, this newfound confidence came from Lady Danbury. It was sort of nice that it came across as like girls uplifting girls, and other people could see her for what she is, other than just her love interest. That this newfound confidence is what allowed her to shine bright enough for others to see her, including Colin. Penn giving up on Whistledown might surprise you, but you have to remember she's been doing it for significantly longer than in the show. She's saved enough money for a lifetime, 8,000 whole pounds, which sounds funny, but obviously it was a different time. And you know, she's never really traveled or done all these other things that she would like to do. Her giving up on marriage at this point also made their relationship start feel more organic, like they actually did it because they fell in love with each other. But I think the biggest complaint I hear from people about season 3 is that there are too many side plots. But honestly, they sort of had to, because not really that much happens in the books. I mean, like, most of it is just the distance created between them based on the fact that they aren't really talking to each other. If we're being honest, one open conversation ended all conflict. I mean, they introduced the Duff concept, which for those who haven't seen the movie is sort of about a jock teaching a girl to be cool. Obviously in Bridgerton it was Colin teaching Penn. I really like this idea, and I feel like that plot could have been more developed. But here's the problem though. They tried to change Colin's characterization in the last few seasons only to change him back. Like I said earlier, in the first 2 seasons he was the lover boy, the hopeless romantic. And then at the beginning of season 3 they're like, no, he's actually a rake and loves attention from women. But also he doesn't want to be like that anymore.
Do you not find it lonely?
I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I've only known him like this for 1 episode, so who gives a fuck? Like, off-screen characterization is so hard to get attached to. Like, imagine Breaking Bad. Walt at the end of season 1 disappears for an episode and comes back as who he is at the end of the show. And goes like, no, I want to go back to being the teacher good guy. Like, yeah, that's all I've ever really known you as. It's the same with Colin. I've only ever really known you as the hopeless romantic. This just felt like a really short phase. Also, this is a really small nitpick, but I have to say it. He is having a threesome with 2 girls. Fine. This is sort of a shortcut for movies to say that someone is a fuckboy. Just show him waking up with 2 baddies, which normally works. Like, I'm like, okay, I get what you're going for. I know what kind of character this is. But in this case, it later turns out they're prostitutes.
You have already paid.
Bro, that isn't charm. That is you are rich. I promise you, you could look like the guy from South Park and they would still give you the same eyes. It's about the bank. Penelope in the show is also sort of hard to get invested in, to be honest. Like, I know it's not really her fault, but Colin not knowing beforehand kind of made him come across as a little bit like a chump. Like, I get why she didn't tell him, don't get me wrong. She was scared to lose him, it's all very understandable. However, it meant that whenever he did romantic stuff, I was like, feels like it's one-sided because she was like half in, half out because she wasn't sure if she was ready to let go of Whistledown. Could you say the same thing about the Duke or the King or any of the other couples that were keeping secrets? Probably, but in their case it felt like they were actually losing something or sacrificing something rather than having to choose between 2 things. Like, if the Duke didn't end up with Daphne, he would have been alone. It's not like he was Whistledown and he would have had at least that. Then again, it did cause a lot of drama and tension, which was good. Like I said, not a lot happens in the book and he just spends the whole time being mad. Whereas with this one, the drama came from the fact that he doesn't know and she's just waiting for the shoe to drop and seeing if she can hide it from him. Honestly, I don't really have an answer for you here. I'm just talking for the sake of talking, so let's move on. I do want to say something positive about the book though. I like the fact that they acknowledged that the Colin she built up in her head was not the Colin she was with. She spent years getting glimpses of him, idealizing him, but at the end of the day, he's a person. He's not an idea. And her coming to grips with the fact that she has to love all of him is sort of the development I like in this type of story. I understand though they couldn't really do that in the show because they're a lot closer than in the books, but it just felt very natural how that relationship developed. Her speech at the end was also changed from the book. In the show, she talks about wanting to use her power more responsibly.
But I was careless with that power.
But in the book, she also already does that. It's mentioned by Lady Danbury that a big reason she suspects Lady Whistledown is Pen is because the author is kind. She's more like a vigilante than anything else. She attacks those who are popular but wicked, while uplifting those who need to be uplifted. Not sure how I feel about this change. I feel pretty indifferent about it, to be honest, but here we are. I thought it was worth mentioning. Now I want to address the point that a lot of people talk about the too many subplots. I realized I went on a complete tangent there. But like when I rewatched the show for this video, I realized that isn't the problem. The problem is that the side plots just outshine the main romance. I mean, like, really think about it. Season 2 had a ton of things happening, but nothing stole away from the spotlight because the main interest was the main couple. But in season 3, I was pretty much invested in everything but their relationship. Like mainly Fran and John, to be honest, which I made a video about. Check it out. Insert shameless plug. Like, John and Fran were more romantic, Ben and the Cougar were more spicy, Anthony and Kate were more loving. Like, I don't think that Pen and Colin really outdid the others in any way, and this is meant to be their season. I will say I had a problem with the side plot in regard to the boxer though. I feel like that could have been cut, or at least changed. Like, I think he's a really popular character, so they kept him and his wife in the story, but the resolution was a bit daft, to be honest. So like, the main thing is that it turns out that they have a rich relative who died, and their son is now a lord, which means that they in turn can join the Ton. But in order to do this, the main struggle is that the boxer has to give up his bar because the Ton don't work, they just party, it's seen as beneath them.
If you are going to be a part of society, you must know you cannot continue to run this place.
That's really interesting, like society, expectation, that's a really interesting plot. But what I didn't like is that they sort of position that the boxer is in the wrong because he can't give up his club to embrace his new life. And then he does give it up. I felt like this was a really weird resolution considering it had the opposite message to Pen despite being a very similar story. Like, Pen is about not wanting to choose between love and her work, something she built for herself. The story resolves with her having both, as we know she's still Lady Whistledown, and we are presented like this is the best case scenario, love and work. But the boxer, who spent years saving, then had to work to make himself a success, is now presented as being misguided, and the best outcome for him is to accept his new life and leave the bar behind. Which he does, and then they drop that whole storyline like 3 episodes until the end. Like, it just feels like a double standard to me. Why is Pen's life work more important than his life's work? I mean, he was gonna hire a cook anyway, just hire a bartender and you don't have to work there, but you can still own it.
Perhaps a new decorator or a cook.
Anyway, enough. That was my thoughts on the 3rd book and how it compared to season 3. I'm surprised about how much I had to say about this season, considering it was my least favourite of the Bridgerton books, which is a wild statement to say, because this is the only book which the Bridgerton doesn't do anything super crazy, like try and inseminate herself or threaten the love interest to be thrown in prison if she tries to leave. Colin is just petty. It just had the same problem that the show had, which is that I couldn't get invested into the relationship much. Unfortunately, I have to officially change my favourite character from Colin to Hyacinth, who is basically like Colin, just a lot more cheeky and a ton more loud. I don't know, her character was fun every time she appeared. I'm really looking forward to her book. But let me know in the comment section what you thought. Did you like the book? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm a dumb poopy head who should shut up? Let me know. Unless it's the last one and then just keep your opinions to yourself. I only want positive reinforcement, okay? But yeah, like this video if you thought season 3 was dead. I can't believe how many Bridgerton videos I've done now, and there are more to come, gentle reader. But for now, I'll be covering Outlander. With the next season coming out, I thought we could explore the book together. So subscribe if that sounds like your kind of vibe. And I've got plenty more book versus TV show content coming out. If you click on the screen, you can watch one of my other amazing videos. Either way, that's all for now. Have a great day and see you in the next video.